one of these figures is wildly inaccurate, possibly both. I haven't reviewed empirical research over the years, but just based on first and secondhand observation and what I know about civilians and war carnage, I feel safe estimating Russia killed more civilians in its invasion than the U.S. in Iraq by at least an order of magnitude.
Yeah, you know, I'm eyeballing it, and let me just tell you, that's a lot of casualties. Definitely more than the ones we did.
Well, I mean, like forgoing the fact that he's completely wrong, like something like 60 to 70% of the buildings in Fallujah were destroyed.
Okay, you say that, Felix, but he has he has already defeated this line of inquiry quite ably by pointing out that Fallujah happened after the initial invasion.
Oh, of
you
course.
see, he's talking about the invasion, which was prosecuted quite morally, but the 10 years plus of war that happened after it is a different matter entirely, and one that supports his point that America would never do anything like what Russia did to Mariupol, to a city full of people. But I mean, at least they wouldn't do that during an invasion. They would do it during an occupation, of a war that happened after the invasion.
Even during the invasion, the U.S. was using artillery on cities. They did that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And the artillery is not guided in any fucking sense. And it's loaded in American munitions with fucking depleted uranium.
Yeah.
I mean, among our many crimes in that country, just an absurd amount of increased birth defects since we used depleted uranium shells in the invasion.
We're the only ones who do that, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you can say. Whatever's happening in Mariupol, there's not going to be some giant spike in fucking cancer, pediatric cancer diagnosis that's going to last for decades. That's the Uncle Sam touch.
Well, you really see why old Brandon, Mr. Let's Go Brandon Friedman, he's sort of C tier former Obama guy, because he kind of gave up the game. Everyone in that fold is so excited about this, so happy over this war, because this is the end goal of our Ukraine policy for the last decade, was to make them fight our war for us, and then we can point to the destruction and death of this country that we've already put through so fucking much. This country where every employer in Ukraine with more than 50 employees has a special little fucking escape valve where the sons and daughters of U.S. politicians can siphon money out. Every awful thing we have forced on that country, we can now point to the dead and maimed and go, look, we told you Russia's bad. But the secondary thing, the more emotional prize for people like Brandon Friedman, is now Americans don't have to talk about Iraq. We don't have to reconcile with Iraq. We don't have to think about Libya. Look, there's a new bad thing, which, if anything, we're just looking at our mirror. I would argue that we're still the great Satan. We're the primary mover of evil in this world. But he blows the whole prize by bringing Iraq back up again.
Well, he
trying to stack these two together when they really don't.
He blows everything because he says, and what I know about civilians and war carnage, speaking from my own personal experience in the matter, it's like, dude, what are you talking about, man? Like,
you've seen a million posts.
Don't you feel guilty about any of this shit?
No, I mean, I'm sure that the Russian military is doing absolutely fucking awful things there, positive. I'm sure of that because that's probably what Brandon Friedman was doing in Iraq. This is generally what invading armies do.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, the distinction that will always animate these arguments and that undergirds all the assumptions that go into saying something this absurd, something that's so easily dunkable, is that whatever we do, we had to do it for, and you could argue, oh, you're just talking about the narrow self-interest of America, as opposed to some greater good. But they would argue that in a world filled with bad actors, our self-interest is the greatest good. And so if we decide we have to do something like go into Iraq, even if it was, an oops, at the time we felt we had to do it, everything we do is under that moral umbrella of necessity. Other countries act out of bad motives, because the narrow self-interest of their country is not elemental to the greater good. Putin, if he should allow himself to be overthrown, he should do the right thing. because it doesn't matter what happens in Russia. It only matters that America persists and prevails.
And and also the other line that these people use to exonerate themselves is that they're just like, well, like all of the barbarity that we did in Iraq, it wasn't systematic and intentional. And then they're like, yes, I know about Abu Ghraib and torture. Yes, like granted that was pursued systematically, but like we're not just mercilessly massacring civilians. Like we would never do that.
The cruelty wasn't the point.
Yes, exactly. That's the distinction.
Yeah.
That's why liberals love saying that, because our cruelty is an unnecessary byproduct. Their cruelty is something that they enjoy, and it's not right if you may have fun. That's the liberal credo. Yeah, we have to do all this stuff. We have to, squeeze the global, the losers in the global order into oblivion in the face of, massive catastrophes, ecological and otherwise. But we're not having fun doing it.
Yeah,
And if you have fun doing it, then you shouldn't be in charge. And that's why the Washington-led Western consensus has to defeat all these nasty revanchist nationalist movements, because they have fun doing it, and that's unseemly.
Would Russians ever make the green zone? Ask yourself that.
Would they ever have a PF Chang's right next to their embassy in Kiev if they took it? I don't think so.
Oh no, I meant the movie The Green Zone. Would they ever make a horrible movie that 25 people see that's about how hard it is to do?
That's a very good point. Yeah.
I kind of hope they
dang it.
Yeah. I hope they do that. I hope they just completely do like every single thing we do.
Yeah.
I hope they elect like a Russian Obama who's like, I was against the Ukraine invasion. And
there's
then, like, reinvades Chechnya.
They remake In the Valley of Ella with Steven Seagal in the Tommy Lee Jones role.
Yeah, they do.
I'm gonna tell you one motherfucking thing about my son. President Putin snatched away every last motherfucking birthday.
Doing like there's Zero Dark 30, but it's about like Steven Seagal killing Jonathan Van Ness. After a long time, our enemy is defeated, but all my friends who turned motherfucking gay along the way. I think, was this shit worth it, blood? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Russian Catherine.
Ramzan Kadyrov, your family hates you, sucker. All your warlords, they turn their back on you, bitch. I don't know. It's just like feel like you had these guys dead to rights years ago when you loudly proclaimed the honor of the Hillary man versus these spineless fucking worms in the Obama administration. Because it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just like the introduction of these guys is just like, what exactly separates them from like Mitt Romney in terms of their like attitudes on like labor, war,
Nothing. No,
taxes,
Mitt Romney is one
like,
of them.
Yeah.
It's just an accident.
The only difference is
that they're on opposite sides of the partisan line.
The only difference is Jay Carney likes Guided by Voices. That's it. He knows who Guided by Voices is.
Yeah, that makes him more repulsive to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's charming to me that Mitt Romney probably, like, listens to Pat Boone. But, like, yeah. Oh, man.
No, it seems like media consumption is virtue for a liberal. It has to be, because they've forsworn any, actual responsibility for anything. They have accepted that getting as high as you can in the hierarchy of blood is the only worthwhile human pursuit. So they have to find somewhere to imagine themselves to be worthy of their position, and it comes from their virtue, which doesn't come from action. Their actions have to go against anything virtuous. It comes from consumption, like it does for the rest of us, and specifically media consumption. Like, the fact that Obama was black was huge, right? And helped him become president. But his enduring popularity and the way that he shaped the Democratic Party had way more to do with the fact that he liked The Wire.
Yeah.
Like, that was mind-blowing for liberals. And it gave them this idea that, like, if you're doing horrible imperial shit or horrible corporate shit, but you watch The Wire, it means you're doing it because there's no other option. Because obviously you get it, right? You get it. So you would never do something bad that you didn't have to do.
And
then
the
So the
wire-
fact that he
the
listens,
whole-
the fact
the
that
whole
Jay Carney's a cool Xer with cool X values, and Mitt Romney's a fucking square who listens to the Osmonds while looking at the Wiki Feet page for Kristen Cinema, that makes him worthy of power, and Romney not.
Yeah. And The Wire is sort of the perfect show because it shows all these completely ignored problems in the inner city that exist in every city in America.